guys, welcome back to the House of Crypto live stream for Donald Trump tariff news. Obviously, one of the biggest events of the year as far as many have given it credit for. The last time I did a live stream, I think, was for the Donald Trump election. So hopefully the sound's working better from the first call. So basically, what is going on with these tariffs? In this video, we're going to talk about everything you need to know about these tariffs. We're going to talk about whether or not they're going to have much of an impact. Obviously, that news event is rolling out pretty much as we speak. So perhaps you're going to have to keep me up to date in the comments about what's going on. We're going to look at really what has been happening with tariffs over the last few years and how they've been priced into the market potentially already, whether we can expect to see more shocks or whether we're good to go. Okay, so without further ado, hit that like button. Let's get on with round 2 of the live stream. Okay, cool. Right, guys. Obviously, if you haven't already, subscribe to the House of Crypto. But first things first, let's have a look at what is going on with the charts today, because as you can see, Bitcoin has been pumping. I mean, if you're subscribed to the channel and you've been watching the last few videos, this one, probably a few of these, you're going to know exactly why the charts are pumping right now. Let me know in the comments why we're pumping. You already know, but we're going to talk about it in more depth as we go on. And we're going to compound a bit further about where we're kind of headed in the next few weeks, in my opinion. So these tariffs, what are they? How are they going to impact us, depending on which countries we're in? How is it going to affect the market? Should we be concerned? Should we be worried? Is this a buy the news event, a sell the news event? Let's get on with it. Right. Tariffs. Effectively, different countries around the world have trade between one another. If you want to import goods, obviously it's beneficial if other countries want to sell you their goods at cheaper prices. But it means that you might not produce goods in your own country because they're cheaper to buy elsewhere. So for example, you might not want to make cars anymore or televisions in your own country because it's much cheaper to get them made in China, for example, which is why if you're from the UK, you'll realize why most of the car companies don't really exist anymore, why most of the furniture and stuff is made in China, and why if you want to buy a brand that is made in England, it's going to cost you 200 or 300 quid as opposed to £20. Okay, so this is one of the issues with having things in your own country and why people want to import, but it doesn't do much good for your own for your own economy in terms of growing and building and creating new things. So what Donald Trump wants to do for the US is to put tariffs on other countries to cause them more trouble with their exports, but benefit his own people with their own productions, which is great in theory because it means that, lots more people potentially have jobs to go and build new things and all these other things, but it's not actually as good as you might think. And I know there's lots of patriots in here who are like, yeah, we're taking the power back and we're all about Donald Trump and this and that. I'm not gonna dive into the politics, but there's a problem with this, right? If you start to want to take all your products and make them in your own country, rather than making them in, say, China, for example, because you put a 50% tariff on products coming from China, it means that for a period of time, you're going to have to pay a lot more money for all of the items that you're consuming before they start to get produced in your own country. And eventually they will be produced in the own country, which I guess is his theory, but they're going to be incredibly expensive compared to what they were before, because it's much more expensive to pay people to, operate machinery, operate factories, etc. Okay, all pretty intense, unexciting stuff, but incredibly important. Now, what do we really care about? Do we care that, the items are going to be more expensive and have to deal with all of this? No. Okay, in the short term, we just need to understand what this tariff war is all about. Donald Trump is basically trying to kind of leverage his power as the number one economy in the world against other countries. But a bit of a problem for the US is that a lot of the other countries have kind of ganged up together to fight against these tariffs. So what we have coming out today is probably the first thing to pay attention to, because Donald Trump is going to come out and he's going to put out his tariffs. He's going to say what he's going to ask of other people. He's going to go to the EU and he's going to say the tariffs he expects them to pay on their exports. Things like pharmaceuticals that he's never had tariffs on before. There's going to be other tariffs on other countries and things like that. But the thing that we don't know yet is what is the reaction from the other countries, because no one's going to take it sitting down. They're all going to come back. And we could have some tumultuous times over the next few weeks. However, there's a silver lining to all this. And it's that we already knew that Donald Trump was going to bring tariffs. He did it in 2016 or 2017 to China, the Chinese trade war with the US. He talked about it all through his presidential campaign that he was going to try and make things right and start to take back more of what was what belonged to the US, right? So in terms of whether or not this is priced in or not, pretty damn sure it is, and I'm going to prove to you that it is right now. Now, obviously, we can see the Bitcoin chart is reacting. Has taken a little bit of a dip since Donald Trump came out, but nothing particularly crazy. So 86,000. Is he out? Yeah, so he's giving a speech now. So you're all probably going to pay more attention to this because actually he's going to tell you exactly what's going to go on. And I can't necessarily keep talking and tell you about this and pay attention to him at the same time. Just keep me updated. But he's basically talking about various tariffs which were to be expected. Now, how do we know they were expected? Well, listen, what happened when Donald Trump won the election is very telling. As soon as Donald Trump won the election, everybody knew for certain there was going to be tariffs. They didn't know how big, but they knew for certain. We started to believe that they were going to get bigger and bigger over the last few weeks because what happened? Crypto prices took a dive. Stock market took a dive. This was the prices reacting to the tariffs already. So is what we're seeing really news? I ask you that. Right, so if we go back to DXY, this is the dollar index for anyone who's unaware. Donald Trump won the election on the 5th of November, but actually before then, sorry if you're a Kamala Harris fan, you could tell that he was probably going to win because she had a couple of fairly shocking interviews, some of which I've watched back recently to try and get a bit of a gauge as to whether or not it was really possible to tell ahead of time whether or not Trump was going to win the election. And certain interviews that she gave were pretty poor. One in particular around the 16th of October, which you can see sort of into around this time. And you can see around this time, the dollar was gaining a lot of strength, and it was gaining it off the grounds that Donald Trump was more than likely, in the eyes of many, going to win the election. On the 5th of November, or 5th into the 6th of November, the US dollar absolutely goes crazy. And it does that because he gets confirmed as the winner of the election. He gets confirmed, which means we see tariffs incoming. Guys, understand this. This is the key. Because if you understand what's going on right now, then it's going to make life very, very easy to understand. Look, because Bitcoin is literally breaking out as we speak. But I want you to understand that this isn't really necessarily because of what's happening in the news. It's more that the news is just keeping people out the markets. The aim of this news was to keep people out the markets. This is why it's been put at 4 p.m. when the markets close in the US, at the time that the global liquidity index, if I turn off the lag, is rallying towards the upside. Okay? Don't get fooled and think that this is the news. This isn't the liquidity index, okay? And I'll show it to you right now. Look, okay, this is the dollar rising. As the dollar rises, I want you to pay attention to this global liquidity index. As the dollar rises from the 30th of September, it goes all the way until the 15th of January. And during this period of time, the global M2, from the top up here, it dumps down to the downside. Why? Because as the dollar rises, it causes other countries to start to cool things down in fear of the potential of the tariffs coming. The pullback we've seen in crypto from December until now is all because of this move. All because of this. This pullback is because of the dollar going up, and is because tariffs already started to get priced in from the 30th of September. So while, yeah, we've seen a little positive reaction to, tariffs, don't get too upset or worried about tariffs. Now, as you know, the global liquidity index, and I know someone's putting like a bored, sleepy face in the comments. Fine, I don't mind if you're bored and sleepy. Someone's got to be my exit liquidity at some point. We need these people. So thank you. Thank you for that. Right, it's 88,000 right now. Things looking pretty good. Anyway, we have from the 20. Where am I? So, okay, sorry, let's turn off the lag or put the lag on, and this is all going to become clear. So what have we got so far? The dollar is pumping, right? Because Donald Trump's going to get in. He's going to win the election. At least that was the theory, because Donald Trump had not Donald Trump, Kamala Harris had a bit of a shocker. And then ever since then, everyone has been feeling a little bit more like it's going to be a painful time because the tariffs is going to come in. So obviously it's all building up to today, which is why today is perfect. And I'll show you why it is with the liquidity in a moment. And it's all going to be pretty good, right? But here, 30th of September, this tops. If we turn on the 70-day lag, which is obviously not going to work, is it? Of course, because I'm on a live stream. Why would it work when I'm going live? Brilliant. Then you're going to see that a lot of these indexes start to decline. Okay, there we are, thankfully. Now, I know loads of people will say, it's 105 days, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. Go and choose whatever you want. Either way, 105 days, 70 days, we've already bottomed. Okay, this was already the bottom. Can we come down lower? I would say I'd be very, very shocked if we're coming down lower. Now, you can see this tops out 70 days later, around the 10th of December, which is very close to where we saw this top on the Bitcoin price. Now, many of you will be like, on the 105 days, it tops here. But that's just not really that relevant, because actually the majority of large cap cryptos, the majority of the altcoins were peaking around the time of the first peak here. The total market cap was 70 days after that initial sell-off caused by the dollar. Okay, so what we had since then, we've had a massive decline in the crypto market as M2 has fallen. Okay, so what have we got? Dollar goes up because Trump's getting into office. Everyone's anticipating tariffs, which have just gone live, and now the crypto market's reacting positively. Shock horror, because they found out that the tariffs were pretty much what were already being anticipated by the markets. It's not news if you already know it's going to happen. Because if you already know, all of the financial analysts and all the big banks and all of the institutions and everyone else out there already knows what you know. So there's nothing to react to. Now, where does this get really exciting for us? I hear you cry. Okay, so this green line is part of the M2. Now, I made an analogy in a video the other day. I just want to explain this because I've seen a few people calling me out and calling other people out, saying that the global liquidity index doesn't drive crypto, or the M2 has no correlation with Bitcoin or anything like that. And I've gone out of my way to try and prove that that's not true. Imagine going to a shopping mall, and the mall is full of people. In that shopping mall, lots of people might have lots of money, and then lots of people are buying things, right? If people don't have much money, no one's buying anything. In two shopping malls, one shopping mall, you can see that there's high M2. The M2's been going up. M2 effectively means there's more cash in people's pockets. Positive thing. When the global liquidity goes up, which is what other people have been talking about, it means that people have the potential to be able to buy more things because they've now got access to bigger loans. Now, there's a huge difference here. You might be able to go and take a massive mortgage on your house because, the markets are allowing you to do that, which means that you have the potential to have more money. But it doesn't mean that you've got the money right now to go and buy that new TV or that new whatever. So they're not the same things. People saying, various influencers, I can see people naming names, various influencers have been talking about global liquidity index, saying it doesn't affect crypto, which is partly right in the short term. Global liquidity index doesn't affect crypto. But what they've said in another breath is that we need to have quantitative easing. Quantitative easing and quantitative tightening is highly correlated to the global liquidity index. So they're telling you that the global liquidity index doesn't affect crypto, but they're also not saying that the quantitative easing, quantitative tightening is what affects the global liquidity index. So they're telling you that we need QE and global liquidity index to move crypto. Do you see what I'm saying? So they're saying they need something to move crypto that they've already in another breath said doesn't actually affect crypto, which is ridiculous. Anyway, I'll allow people to be questioned on it because that's fine. People can question me all they want. I can prove what we're working with here. Now, for some reason, this is not working. Brilliant. Let's try and see some of these. Now, what I've done and what I did the other day, and a few of you probably caught that, is, and I will answer some questions in a minute, guys. I see people asking me about Metacade and various other cryptos, which coins to buy, because everyone's like FOMOing in. I mean, most people, guys, Bitcoin's been down here since the 27th of February. Now everyone's like, the day it pumps back up towards 90k, everyone's like, what do I buy? Fair enough, you know, can lead a horse to water. Anyway, where was I? Global liquidity index. I'm going to bang on about this because if you can figure this one out, it's going to give you a little bit of a clue, a major clue about where the markets go, because it runs 70 days ahead. So what happens in the M2 is 70 days ahead of crypto. And if I had known this as well and had studied this as well, then I would have known to sell off everything around December. Wouldn't that have been amazing? But you know, we live and learn. We're in a better place right now. This, by breaking up the M2 into different parts, it makes life very interesting. So, dropping this down, you can see on this particular indicator, which is M2 money shift for Bitcoin. You can download this yourself and make sure it says 70, which gives you the 70-day delay. You can either have all of these different inputs, which is USA, China, Japan, EU, UK, Canada, Australia, India, etc. The major ones are the US, EU, China, Japan, and then the other one's kind of slightly less impactful. If you go and select the individual ones, you will be able to see that across the board, we are rounding and heading higher. This move down across the liquidity index was responsible for all of this BS we had to sit through since December until more recently. It's the reason that many of you are down in crypto. Okay. This is, what's the purple one? Purple one is UK. So the purple one, the UK. Look at the same. It tops around this same time. And it rallies on. Now, if anyone's like doubting like the accuracy of this, in the last bull market top, you will see something very interesting. If I turn off the UK here, you will be able to see that the EU Euro M2 has this top up here. It puts in the second top. It puts in this top. And 1 or 2 days before that was the very top of the Bitcoin bull market. This lower high was one of your only indicators, one of 2 indicators that the bear market was going to start. Because if you look at the global M2, which is when you turn all of these on, it just carries on rallying forever. Well, not forever, but it rallies for a very long time. There's no indication as to when the bull market's going to end from that, but it talks, or you can see when the others start to drop off, then we start to see weakness. Okay. A nothing burger. Yeah, I mean, as to be expected, right? But one thing to be aware of, it's not necessarily the tariffs that Donald Trump comes out with, but it's the tariffs that come from the others. Someone's just saying, if you adjust the lag to 110 days, it's more accurate, and then tell us we have another dip, and it's your opinion. Okay, I've tried this time and time again, and it's just wrong. And the reason it sort of correlates to certain areas more than others is because at certain areas of time, certain M2s are driving the move. Okay? Because of this, look, this is the global M2, this purple line. This is the top of the last bull market. Look, it just carries on. If you followed the global M2, it wouldn't have told you anything. You would have ended up holding until what, the 13th of June, by which point Bitcoin was at 20K. That's when the first QT came in. The first interest rate hikes came in June 2022. However, this is where your 110-day theory is flawed. First of all, on the euro, I just showed you that it is this. I mean, look at this rounded top here. Look at the price chart. Follow it. Up here, you can see the second top, the very top of the crypto market comes when the euro dumps to the day. This is almost to the day on the 70-day delay. If we add another one, which is the Japanese M2, again, what do we get? We get the top of the bull market here on the 8th of November. The top, in fact, this is a little top, it's not quite. The second this falls off the face of a cliff, look at the reaction in the charts here. Bitcoin falls from 59K to 42K in the space of about 3 or 4 days. And it does it because of the global, not the global M2, the Japanese M2 in correspondence with the Euro M2. These sell off. And then on the 105 days, it might line up on these little bits and look very tidy. But the really important parts, sorry, whoever this is, I'm laying into you, but why not? Everyone lays into me in the comments, so don't care. I'll get on with it. Look, this is what's important. What's important isn't how tidy it looks in between. It's the rallies. It's the turns, the pivots from the static to the ups. Look at the M2 behind it. It does it. Okay? It's the one where you see the change in direction. It's instantly seen. Okay? This is why I go by the 70-day. It's almost like it's dumping. Is it dumping? Guys, you got to ease off in your terminology. Like no wonder everyone's so stressed all the time in the comments on Twitter. Like it's dumping, it's pumping. Like what are you looking at? It's daily. Just go to a daily chart. Look, I know how to make life stressful. Oh my God, it's dumping. Yeah, if you use a 1-minute chart, it's very easy to spend your time with high blood pressure. If you want things to be a little bit... Guys, this is an enormously important news event. Donald Trump is making a lengthy, I assume so, a lengthy speech. Oh, there he is. He's got his board out. Lots of people making lots of comments, slightly more intense than this. Obviously, he got more followers over on Live Now with Donald Trump. That's right, not bitter about it. Look, there's a big list here. There is a load of information to process. It's going to be choppy because the information is being processed. It's not dumping, okay? It's just having a little move around. You know, in 5 minutes' time, it could be back up to where it was. It's all fine. And I'll show you why it's all fine. In the short term, there's obviously room for choppiness. There always is. Right? It's a major news event. There wasn't that much, information preceding it, which means it's quite difficult for people or the markets to make up their mind about this before it drops. Now, one thing we know with news, and this is, my thoughts on the news and how to play it, is when someone chucks a rock in a pond. It's very deep, this. When someone throws a stone into a pond, you see the ripples, you see the initial splash, you see the ripples. What happens to the pond after time? It chills out, it calms down, it goes flat again. This is exactly the same with the crypto market. So if this news is to cause any spike towards the upside, expect it to cool down and come back to the center. If, however, it causes significant move to the downside, again, it's going to be bought up incredibly fast and it will just move back to the center, because the underlying thing that drives the crypto markets, or the Bitcoin price at least, is this, in this case, purple line. Yeah, this purple line. Look at it. This purple line has been rallying back towards the upside for a long time. We've been going down up until this point because of what happened from the 30th of September until early January. Okay? We're just getting the delayed version. But the beauty of that is you can now see ahead of time what we're likely to get. This is the M2 for... So this, okay, the green line is the US M2. Slowly, steadily, just carries on ticking away. US M2 doesn't seem to show much in the way of correlation. The correlation, I think, comes from other countries. And at different periods of time, it's definitely more correlated to different countries. So, for example, here you can see the Japanese yen hasn't been, or sorry, not Japanese yen, the Japanese M2 hasn't been particularly instrumental in this bull market so far. Peaking and troughing and whatever. It did peak at the top here. If we turn that one off, the Chinese, let's change it. Let's just make it red. The Chinese one, you can see, has been pretty strong throughout this bull market. And that's what's been probably or predominantly driving a lot of the growth that we've seen in crypto more recently. Okay. And it's just carrying on up. So what does this tell us? It means that we have a move. Who's screaming for shorts? Guys, if you're screaming for shorts at the bottom of the market, you deserve to be banned. Crazy. Who screams for a short on the bottom of the market when the news is already anticipated as bearish? Best of luck to you guys. Insane. Right. Now, what do we know? We already know that ahead of time we're going to get this outward move. Does it mean it has to go up every day until the end? No, absolutely not. Okay. I know what Colin Talks Crypto has said about the M2. That's fine. Just told you that I prefer the 70-day. I've showed you by using previous bull market data, by breaking down the various different M2s, that I believe the 70 is more correlated. Okay? Because the 70 might not look as tidy as that one, but it's actually mostly shown on this. Because the total market cap, you will see, is higher on the first peak, more correlated. And this second rally was all to do with the kind of the Trump pump, okay, around the 20th, the Donald Trump meme coin, the blah, 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 the manipulated pump. This was the manipulated move. This was the M2 money move. This was the Donald Trump's son telling you to buy ETH move before he sold it and dumped it. And this was because of the M2 rally move. Okay, simple as that. This will be a fake. Hold on, are we dumping? Last time I checked, the candle's still green for the day. Guys, remove that word from your mouth. Pumps, dumps. You realize the whole game, right? You know, every time crypto markets move, like a little bit, you get like a notification from Bybit being like, Bitcoin is up 13% on the day. It hasn't been a while since we've seen that, but you get those, right? You may have noticed that sometimes crypto moves more than the exchanges let you know about. That's the game, right? They're trying to emotionalize you. They don't make money if you're all making money, okay? They need to clear you out. The reason everyone wants to be in this market is because there's lots of people who don't really know what's going on, who are overly emotionalized. The more you use terminology that is overly emotionalized, and the more you look at charts on the 1 minute and you brooking it, because this is probably just, he made some sweeping statement about something, and then he made another sweeping statement in the next breath. It's really not a major thing. It looks crazy and scary, but it's just the market trying to work out what to do. Excuse me, shouldn't sneeze in the microphone. It's probably going live, hey? Anyway. So I'm telling you, stop being so emotional. 100-day lag, 108-day lag, guys. It's BS. Get into it. Just get into the individual ones. Okay. Screw the global M2 and what someone's told you with a pretty looking chart. It's all on the pivots as well. These major pivots, they all correlate to the 70-day, not the 100 and whatever it is. Okay. These major pivots, you can pretty much call on the 70-day. On the 70-day with Japan M2 and EU, you would have been able to call the absolute top of the market. If you'd been doing the 105, you would have been missing it. Okay, you would have missed this top. You would have been 35 days later than the 6th of November, which would have taken you to about the 18th of December. It would have meant you got out of 45k rather than a 69k Bitcoin. Pick and choose. All right. We're at 85k. We're back at 85k madness. We were at 85k earlier today, were we not? We've still got a little candle like that. I mean, over the last few days, you would have expected us to be about 35k by now. Some of the posts I've been reading. Okay, are we in a bear market? Farshad just keeps screaming, dump. We're in a bear market. Farshad, tell me why we're in a bear market, other than the price is moving down. Farshad, someone said, bore off Farshad, you geek. Farshad's not a geek, because if he was a geek, he would understand that we're not in a bear market. Farshad, stop being a little Timmy. Tell us what's going on, and if you can justify why we're in a bear market, then I'm more than willing to listen to arguments. Obviously, open mind, guys. Always keep an open mind. Argue, listen to things that don't make sense to you. Do the opposite, whatever. But we've just, we're sat at 85k. What were we at the other day? 81. A couple of weeks ago, 76. What do I see? As long as we're remaining above here, we just have a higher low. Okay? There's nothing to say that we can't do this. All good, right? Dario Palmieri, mate. Tell me how you know what you're talking about. Always interested. Lots of, people love to heckle and say, "Oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about," but then never apply the charts and never provide any evidence of what they know. Always interesting. Okay, as we see right now, the Bitcoin dominance, I don't know what that's on there for. Bitcoin dominance is rising. Now, what can be expected during this period of time is still uncertainty for the altcoins. One thing I don't claim to have a link between. M2 does have a bit of a correlation between Bitcoin, and it has a correlation between some of the larger caps, mainly because a lot of them are moving with Bitcoin. But a lot of the smaller cap altcoins, the altcoin rally, altcoin season, we've had kind of mini altcoin seasons, but we've never had the full-blown altcoin season yet because the M2 rallies never lasted long enough. Okay, so as you can see here, this Bitcoin rally only really lasted from 6th of September all the way till 16th of December before it started to sell off. Okay, which actually wasn't very long. It's about 14 weeks. So during 14 weeks, we didn't have enough time for the altcoins to really gain that kind of crazy amount of confidence in the market. Not necessarily confidence, pure stupidity. Okay, stupidity drives altcoin seasons. Stupidity, greed, just complete craziness. Am I listening to the Trump speech? No, not really. Are you? What am I missing? To be honest, I'll take probably this transcript, and I'll chuck it in ChatGPT later, and I'll find out what's happened. But I'm looking at the charts. I'm not that overly fussed about what he's got to say, to be honest, because I don't think he's going to say anything too out the blue. Okay, I believe this is all part of the, the show, the market making show, market moves. Yeah, we'll see. I don't think anything too exciting to expect. If there's anything crazy, Farshide's is now showing for 10k. What stocks to invest in right now? No idea. Not going to tell you. Something going on with Tesla. Tesla on Friday is going to have an earnings report, which is expected to be lower than normal. So if Tesla does take a dip on that, that might be an interesting one. Buy the fear, as always. Not financial advice. Do your own research. Quick answer. Should we buy now for a short term or not? Don't buy for short term. That's your problems, guys. Buy for longer terms. Okay. So yeah, let's just imagine that he can continue to say things. Now, I would expect over the next few days some more chop to happen in these markets. It's not going to be any surprise, right? Because not only right now have you got Donald Trump saying what he's going to enforce on other countries, but you still have the uncertainty of not knowing what the Eurozone are going to come back and say in response. All of these other countries are not going to be that delighted about what's being pushed on them. They have a chance to come back and try and get against it. Okay, but this, I would imagine right now, is the most uncertain period of time. And considering that all of the data, what we saw him hold earlier, he held the board, had all the information on it. Now you can see we are still in the green, and we've just had the potentially most bearish piece of news that's been spooking the market for the last few weeks. And we still sit above 85k. The one thing that was potentially a threat to the health of the economy is the impact that Donald Trump was going to have with the tariffs. And you've just seen it. We're now higher than we were at the start of the day. I mean, only just, but it's still not that bad, is it? Okay, so from my opinion, I don't think anything too unhealthy has come of this. Now, obviously, reciprocal tariffs that come from other countries could be an interesting one to pay attention to. Okay, stock market's obviously closed, but again, bouncing from a nice area of support. I would be surprised if this goes below that. On open tomorrow, could be an interesting one, not sure, okay, but probably bounces around here, consolidates, works its way back up, carries on along its merry way. Inflation could potentially go higher. This could put interest rates off until later on, or interest rate cuts off until later on. But it doesn't matter because we don't need the interest rates to drive the crypto market, because the crypto market can be driven on the M2. But I will say this. It's a chance that we don't get, not even a chance, I would say it's pretty highly likely that we don't get that crazy blow off top altcoin season until we get the QE, quantitative easing, coming in. Okay, given the M2 money supply, do I think that the market will pump for 70 days? Now, it's a good question. All of these charts are suggesting that we have upside until 17th to the 28th of May. Okay, sometime in that period. I don't think necessarily using this on the daily chart is the most accurate thing of all time. I'd say let's switch to a weekly chart. It might be a little bit more comfortable. And as I said, don't try and use this as an absolute indicator, but it's just a good gauge in the back of your mind. Keep hold of this indicator, use it in conjunction with what's happening in the news, what's happening in the prices, what's happening across YouTube and Twitter. Like today, when everyone's super bearish, the news is really scary and really worrying, but we've got the M2 going up. It means you can just feel a little bit more confident doing the thing that your mind's telling you not to do. Your mind in that situation is always telling you to avoid buying because your mind tells you to do the wrong thing, tells you to buy when you're panicking. Who's saying Bitcoin is in free fall? Are you insane? Guys, ridiculous. Bitcoin was in free fall back here. Okay, not anymore. Use it as a correlation thing. When the fear is at its max in the markets, like it is now, when loads of people are sat in these comments being like, we're in a bear market, it's terrible, I lost all my money. It's a good time to look to buy, and it's hard to do that because your mind's telling you to sell and be panicky. But the fact that all of the liquidity is bouncing towards the upside is pretty healthy. Now, to get on with the question you just asked, you can see it does seem to top out somewhere in and around the 20th of May. Now, that doesn't mean that on the 20th of May, everything's just going to dump towards the downside again. Okay? Because I've been through and I've looked at these periods of time where we've had sustained upward moves. You do obviously get these pullbacks from time to time. But it is something we need to look at as time moves on. Okay, and that's because you could see potentially this. If we get that, then yes, it's probably the time to at least take some chips off the table. But there's no guarantee we get that. And the fortunate thing is we have at least another few weeks to see what plays out. Because after all this tariff stuff's gone away, which will probably be in the next few days, by Friday, there's a good chance that this carries on upwards. If this carries on upwards, happy days. Just keep in there, in my opinion. Okay. Why do some influencers say ETH will go to zero? I don't know. I don't say that. The main reason those people are screaming panic is simply because they are so zoomed in that they got in the last loop looking for Lambo on day one. Yeah. I mean, okay, guys. It's very challenging, crypto, right? Because we all get emotionalized in it. It's designed to be like that for us, okay? That's why there's so many big prizes to be made, but also so much for burn that can happen, I guess is the term I'm looking for. Waiting for things to happen, trying to do too much. Many of you, I would anticipate, not all, might be slightly younger. You don't have to try and make as much money as possible in the next year. Think about this as like an ongoing thing. Now you're in crypto, you're going to hopefully just get better and better at this. And you're going to live through this. And you're going to start to learn bottoms and tops and start to figure out how this works. If you can start to realize that by understanding some of these models, you now have a bit of a pretty good shot of being able to sell somewhere near the top and being able to buy somewhere near the bottom. Let's say you joined in the last bull market, somewhere around here, and you made, you had $1,000 and you turned your $1,000 into like $5,000 to $10,000. Many people right now wouldn't be that happy with that. Many people would, I don't know. But if you took your 10,000, you put it in down here, and you turned your 10,000 into, I don't know, if you put it into Solana, you could have got 17 to 20x. Then you could have potentially ended up, with 100k, 150k. 150k in 5 years is far more reasonable with 1k now than turning your 1k now into 25k in a year. Yeah. So set your vision field further away into the future. When is this idiot gonna make crypto pump, not dump? Every time he opens his little mouth, we dump. Are you talking about Trump? I hope, because I don't know if I calls crypto to pump and dump. Farshad, you're not all gamblers. You are a gambler if you. Okay, here's the difference between being a gambler and not being a gambler. If you don't know why the market is going up and down on a daily basis, you are correct. You are a gambler. If you are making your own theories that you believe in, that you trust, then you become an investor because you're actually understanding why you are following a strategy. If you're just following a strategy because someone else is telling you a strategy, that's also gambling. Okay, that's why I'm trying to teach you the strategy. Now, where are we at? Anything crazy going on with Trump's baseline 10% tariff on US imports? So I thought they were going to be like 30%. 10% is nothing. Everyone was, so we were pricing in at 20%. No real drama, is there? Oh my God, we're pumping. Are we pumping? Well, look, we're up. We're pumping again. 0.66%. Guys, if you haven't already, go give me a follow on Twitter, please. After I got hacked and lost the other Twitter account, which hopefully should get back to me soon, I've been doing my best to try and grow this. At Peter_THOC. I'll keep you updated. If you want to know a little bit more about what I've been talking about, this tariff drama, go and see this one here. Okay, talks about the Fed cuts, talks about QE versus QT and why we don't really need QT. Okay, this is quantitative easing. Sorry, why we don't need QE. This is quantitative easing. And you can see it goes up there. Okay, so it went from 19K to 109K without QE. Because other countries around the world are printing money. EU, Japan. Japan weekly correlated, see? In the last bull market, it ended the bull market, then it's been pretty weak. But China didn't really have much impact on the last bull market, but this one, very closely correlated. US doesn't seem to have too much impact, okay? Seems to be the ones that are really causing the differences here is the EU, China, Japan a bit. Now, in terms pump TAI, please. Because I'm not just going to pump coins. To be honest, as well, I could try. If you really wanted me to pump a coin right now, it just wouldn't pump because people are not that willing to buy. Crypto market's a bit weird, right? Right now, everybody is like, oh, if I tell you to buy right now, where Bitcoin is close enough to this recent bottom, you would say that worst case scenario, Bitcoin comes down there. That's not really too much of a problem. But if I told you to buy, many people would be like, no, you're insane. It's too risky. But if I told you to buy Bitcoin up here, you'd be like, yeah, that's a great call. Which one's more risky? So yeah, altcoins take a little bit of time. Now, what we'll see initially is Bitcoin will rally. Large caps will rally because they are on perpetual futures contracts. They have market makers. Market makers are the shady people behind the scenes who are buying and selling crypto projects to pump and dump them to basically keep healthy charts. Okay, I guess that's what their argument will be, but some sketchy stuff goes on for sure. So that's why we see Bitcoin take off. Often we'll see XRP reacting strongly, Solana reacting strongly, not particularly today. Cardano, HBAR, top 100 cryptos. Okay, people will be like, oh, it's because XRP is the future of money of the world, and it's going to go to $50,000 a token, which is insane. It's not, by the way. It's not financial advice, but it's not. Is this really alive, or is this a pre-filmed video? There is no interaction. Oman, I'm sorry, I am answering questions, but if I just answer questions forever, you don't hear anything. You can read the questions yourself. Relax. Right, large cap coins pump first, then medium cap coins will start to show some interest, predominantly because people like yourselves will start to be like, I'm kind of interested in crypto, and it feels like the market's getting better. They start to get a little bit of confidence back, and they will start to buy into coins. We saw that the other day happening with the likes of Beam. Saw this nice return up here. Okay, we saw Sui, some others showing a little bit of strength. But it will be a little bit more time. It will take some time to overcome all the little, the little Timmy fear that many people have coursing through their veins right now, to start going and aping into the small caps again. But all you got to know is that as soon as that confidence is back, it just takes the smallest of little catalysts to push, a 5 mil market cap coin to do a candle like this. Okay, very, 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 very straightforward. My Lovely Planet. Very exciting things coming up for My Lovely Planet. Tarzay, people keep asking about Tarzay. Tarzay has gone live on KuCoin this week. Some other exciting updates working with Solana right now. Guys, again, lots of people are like, oh, it's a dead project. they struggle with charts like this. I understand it's really pretty painful to look at charts like this, but they're just not their projects, okay? Tars AI is a strong project, okay? It's doing this because it's a lot of the projects that appeal heavily to retail investors like yourselves onboard a lot of retail investors during hype periods of markets. Guess what happens? As soon as the market starts to fall down, those people, those hype buyers, become sellers. And guess what? The market comes down harder. These coins come down harder. But it doesn't really matter too much because a lot of them will rally back to strength once more. Okay. Peter is live. It is called live chat, and B answers the questions. Yes, I do. Right. I don't often do lives. Obviously, I'm not particularly good at live streams, but it's all right. I'll live. Gave my editor a day off. Look at IO real quick, please. Say please, guys. You know, I'm a traditional guy, guys. Use your please and thank yous. I might actually respond to you more nicely. What am I looking at? Looks all right. Look, guys. I'll show you an example of a project to probably be cautious of. Every project that launched from, okay, let me just use this. I'll use the example. This is Bitcoin. Those of you who were involved in crypto last year, which I actually don't think many of you were, judging by some of the comments and questions I'm getting. Sorry, judging by some of the comments. Questions are fine. Please ask questions. I'm not knocking you. From this point last year, where we saw March to the 10th of September, if you think you've been in pain and you've been bored recently from this, guys, do you not remember this? Because to be honest, I don't really remember it either. It's a blur. I just remember it was boring. It's weird. In about 2 weeks, if Bitcoin carries on like that, no one's going to remember anything about what's just happened. So I could say anything, but it's fine. Because everyone's too zoomed into the 1 minute chart and happy as soon as the market pumps again, they're just like, it's okay. Just tell me it's going to carry on going up. And I don't care what you said before. I've always been telling you it's going up, obviously. Anyway, from this period of time, any project that launched into this had what's called a absolute shocker, because they all launched into good hype and excitement, but this one launched on the 15th of June, which, if you're aware, is in the middle of this absolute mess here. So what happens is loads of these projects just sort of lose a bit of interest. No one's paying attention to them. Oops. However, IO.net, as this example, comes down to what? Starts to pump around the Donald Trump time. From that Donald Trump time, goes up 248%. This is a very short period of time. For newer coins, I want you to understand, for newer coins that we're entering the market, there wasn't much time for people to learn about them. I keep looking at the wrong camera. There wasn't much time for people to learn about them, right? Let's just try to change a scene. Mix it up. During that period of time where people weren't able to learn about them, it means it takes a little bit more time for them to kind of build up that momentum once more. And if there's only a 14-week period between that period and that period, which was caused by, of course, the liquidity pumps. If we put this on the weekly, you'll see. If you look at many of these, they were caused by the liquidity pumps. Okay. That again, anyone who's questioning why, the 9th of December, the 10 days versus the 70 days, sorry, the 10 weeks versus the 15 weeks. Look at it. For most altcoins, they pump and dump literally on this. In 14 weeks, it managed to start gaining momentum when people started to look into newer projects once more. And then guess what? As soon as that project, or as soon as the market lost interest because of, guess what, the liquidity going down, then a lot of people stopped paying attention to all sorts of these newer coins. They don't have the huge kind of supportive community of XRP or Cardano or HBAR or whatever. You get the picture. Okay, so a lot of them do cool off a little bit, but it doesn't mean they can't come back. IO.net is a top class project. Would I buy the right this second? Just hold on a little bit. You've got somewhere around the bottom there. It's pretty close to the bottom. I would anticipate this rallying back up. Very, very strong, deep in AI project. Right? Aether, IO.net, but Aether's also seen some tough times. That's since it went Coinbase. Let's look at Aether over a period of time. OKX, is that weird? Is that when it launched? Okay, ignore that candle, I don't know what that means. As you can see from the launch on a weekly chart, hold on, this is not showing the full data. I'll get through a couple of these. Look, anything that basically managed to show strength and rallied during periods where people were in the market is pretty positive. Aether also has 100 mil recurring revenue, annual recurring revenue, which actually would make it a top 20 coin if it was about projects that actually made money. People are just, hold on, sorry. There we are. I only just found the chart to show you anyway, so don't worry too much. However, let me show you an example of a project that is a little on the sketchy side. Not saying it can't recover. Nothing personal against this project. Just had a delivery of the tariffs, so we'll have a look at the tariffs in a moment. Interesting. Okay, so game. Have we just lost the audio? Microphone. Okay, switch of microphone. Okay, good. Sorry, the sound might have just changed, but don't worry. Gaming had an absolute shocker, right? And what's particularly concerning is that during the period of time where it should have been going up, it does go up like a little bit and then it doesn't really. So it fails to rally. It has a shocker at the start. Many coins did, but it fails to show any recovery. Lots of other coins have shockers and then show at least some recovery. And those I think will be fine. But this is probably a little bit weak for me. That's a concern. Okay. Is the market crashing? Guys, can you stop saying the market's crashing? I keep like... It's bad for your stress levels, even worse for mine. Because I'm not watching it. It's not even... I've got to stop looking at 5-minute charts. We're fine. Let's have a look at some of these tariffs, since this is about the tariffs today. Okay, China. Tariffs charged to the US. China charges 67%. It's pretty big. Anything particularly crazy on these charts? I mean, the big ones to pay attention to are China and the EU, right? Because those are the biggest trade routes. I mean, you almost don't even need to look too much about this. The sound is better than before. It's good to know. No, for the next time I bang out a live stream in 6 months' time, I'll remember. Thank you. What's my opinions of Snake? Man, you're having a meme coin. You know how I feel about meme coins. It's probably all right, but what do I know? I don't know much about meme coins. Can you look at Myriad token? Only 10% for the UK. That's good. So we can still buy our knockoff furniture. Oh no, because hold on, I'm thinking of China. Sorry. It's probably an inappropriate comment. It's right. My wife's Chinese. I'm allowed to make such statements. She'll give me a harder time than you lot will. Right, where are we? Yeah, I don't think... Okay, how do I know that these aren't even that bad? Because the chart's not even that bad. Okay, we were expecting to see something pretty shaky. Right, we did see a bit of volatility today. Nothing particularly crazy. We spiked up to 88.1. All good. Come back down. Nothing particularly
worrying to worry about. Now, the next few days could be interesting. I do think that we are going to be moving up and breaking out eventually from this particular pattern here. You can see that we sort of faked out, unsurprisingly, up here. We never really had a huge amount of volume in here. Okay, but we are still putting in these higher lows. It will be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of days. I still think that, you know, there's nothing outrageous about anything like this. There's nothing outrageous about anything like this. If we start to break below this kind of area, then there's probably an air of caution there. But I don't believe we will. Australia scores 10%. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You are one of the YouTubers I follow. Thank you for following. No screen again. No screen again. Hold on. Yeah, sorry guys. Don't like to look at my face. I said if we get down to this area. Yeah, sorry. If we get down to this area, 75k below 76k, probably be a little bit concerning for us. Okay. The market is so manipulated. The market is pretty worrying, but ultimately all markets are being manipulated by various people. Crypto is just particularly easy to manipulate because it's particularly small. Now, one thing that I think is a bit concerning. Now, I'm not particularly like much of a purist when it comes to crypto, and yeah, I'm not particularly much of a purist with crypto, right? But actually, the thing to pay attention to is the fact that we've got Bitcoin being bought up and centralized by, what's his name? Michael Saylor. You've got Bitcoin being bought up and centralized and the mining being centralized, it feels like, by Trump administration and his sons and whatever else. I do think that Bitcoin going forward might lose a little bit of its je ne sais quoi, but who knows? Okay, there will be lots of blockchain technology products that have a future, and a lot of the projects that I think are worth investing in and understanding about are ones that are actually attracting users, ones that actually have activity on chain, etc. All right, so this is DeFiLlama.com. Whenever you're looking at projects, don't take the word of my word or whoever tells you about a particular project. Go and look at the revenues. Go and try and find a way to understand what is going on with those projects. Okay, so there's a reason that Solana went from $8 to being worth over $200 this year, and it's because the growth of the Solana ecosystem was enormous. Not just because of pump fun, although that was probably beneficial. Lots of other things going on. Okay. So many other people are like, oh, well, Solana's a rubbish chain because it's had downtime, and there's so many other better projects like Casper and ICP. Guys, I understand that people get very passionate about tech, but behind certain projects. But go and look at those products and understand if people are actually building and using them. Okay, so I think like the amount of people who tell me that a layer 1 is like really good because it's really fast and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but no one's using it. No one's building on it. It doesn't matter. And if they have a monstrous market caps of like billions and billions of dollars, but their revenue is like a few $100K a month, it's pretty worrying, right? You wouldn't invest in a company that took in a real world, you wouldn't go and buy a restaurant that would take 530 years to pay back the money you invested in it, would you? So think about that. Go and look at different products. Go and look at the amount of TVL, total value locked on them. Sui is a very good example of a very impressive ecosystem growing from strength to strength. Aptos, considering, has been pretty underperforming. The TVL growth, incredibly strong. A lot of the projects being built on Aptos are doing really well. Aptos is a bit of an underrated product. had a little bit of a tough time because one of the CEOs left, became an advisor, which caused massive drama. But yeah, it's fine. People saying, who cares about projects? Who cares about trading? Guys, I get being a good trader or a bad trader, fine. But as soon as strength returns to the market, the projects which actually fundamentally have strength behind them in that they are attracting certain users, etc., will get the backing of the venture capitalists. The big institutions will go and pile money into those. They then cause all of you to go and FOMO in after they've already done it. But if you can anticipate their move by understanding the underlying data that attracts them in the first place, because all of them have been investing into some of these different projects over the last few months, while people out there have just been panic selling and worrying and not sure where to head, then you just end up being the exit liquidity once more. Anyway, so Avalanche, I like Avalanche, right? And people, it's an exciting project, some good partnerships, but it's a little bit lackluster, okay? In terms of the volumes and things. DEX volume's a little bit better. Base ecosystem, one of the ones to watch for sure. Okay, so Base, TVL, flying. Go and look at some projects on Base that have been catching everyone's eye. Everybody was talking about Aero back in December. It had a big sell-off, right? It will be back. Why? Because look at the TVL. TVL is still pretty strong. Token price has been horrible, right? But you can see the token price follows quite similarly to the TVL. The TVL has been rounding off and starting to come back towards the upside, but the price has been falling. The price will likely start to follow the TVL. We did this back in September when we called SUI. We followed SUI. We got into SUI around 1.2 by understanding this model. The TVL shows the strength. Right, what time is it? This was supposed to be a tariff show. I hope you don't feel like you've been clickbaited. We did talk about tariffs a little bit, right? Wasn't too bad. SUI, Aptos, Smart Chain not doing anything. Okay, hold on, there is one other I wanted to mention. Sonic, previously Phantom. Look at this, TVL, bonkers. Chain fees picking up, app revenue, perps volume, fine. There we are. Volume not amazing, but the TVL is really, really picking up. Okay, definitely worth paying attention to Sonic right now. I haven't checked out a price chart recently. Let's just have a look at that. Price has been pretty flat. I would suggest that there is value to be had there. Not financial advice, go and do your own research. Just off of basically looking at this. I personally don't hold this coin. I would, if I had, any more money left in this, to be buying up cryptos. What do I think of AI agents? I think AI agents will come back in a big way. In fact, I'm launching a project in AI agents niche, so make sure you go and follow Perceptron Network, Perceptron NTWK on Twitter. There will be a upcoming pre-sale for this. We already had a pre-sale last summer. There will be a second round for anyone who was unable to get into that pre-sale. Coming up later in the year. Obviously, this project right now, I say later in the year, let me just be cautious of what I say. As the market continues to show uncertainty, let's say, in the next day or two, let's see. But I do anticipate that we increase higher with M2, as I've been talking about forever. As we increase with M2, confidence returns to the markets. It will mean that we get, let's say, 4 to 6 weeks of uptime in markets before we try to launch. Now, what you don't want to do is launch at the very top of a market excitement peak, like Lingo, for example, which launched into the peak of the market, which is why it sold off aggressively. Still a very strong project. I still believe that Lingo comes back very strongly. I still hold Lingo, a lot of Lingo, in fact. Okay, but you don't want to launch at the very top of the peak. You want to launch sometime in just as an example, like this, you would want it to launch maybe around here. So you've got a bit of confidence returning in the market, and then you've got some further runway to see some good upside after. Launching up here is just suicidal initially. Okay, so we will try to be very cautious of what's going on with that. Now, guys, if you are new to the channel and you want to have kind of a bit more like real in-depth understanding of what's going on in crypto, understanding of why different projects are going to be moving around, and not just do what Christian's telling me, we will see 72k after this week pump. Why? If you want to understand, with evidence why things happen in the markets and understand what's going on, make sure you subscribe to House Crypto, guys. Notification bell turned on. My usual work is hopefully a little bit more pristine and edited than this, but this is, you know, a little bit more real time. Bitcoin to 70k tomorrow. You guys have no idea. Anyway, also go and give me a follow over on Twitter. That'd be great. At Peter_THOC. Make sure it's this one. As you can see, lots of other impersonators. Okay, give me a follow over there so you can keep up with what's going on. Okay, hit the like button. And yeah, let's probably wrap it up, guys. Thank you very much for joining wherever you are. Hopefully that's been of value to you. Something slightly different from normal. I will try and maybe bring some more live streams. Also, one thing that I wanted to mention while I've got you here, on this is the School of Crypto, is another channel that I started a while ago, kind of lost interest. Hold on, there we are. This is the School of Crypto. Okay, it's my other channel. I will be now, from tomorrow, starting to do short takes on what's happening in the market from day to day. If you want to see more in terms of trading, more in terms of trading tutorials, more in terms of beginner-friendly tutorials, as well as just an overview of what's going on in the markets, make sure you're subscribed to the School of Crypto as well, which is School of Crypto, HOC, with my face on it. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great weekend. No, that's a lie. It's Wednesday. Have a great week, and I'll see you later on. Cheers. Bye-bye.